it's fairly easy to understand that people usually like things that are good for them, right? So if I'm gonna pay the same price for a surfboard, right? Do I want a professional grade surfboard carved by a professional carver and, authentic Hawaiian style? Or do I want one from Costco? If it's the same price, of course I want the better end of the deal, right? So this is a natural human desire. Okay, so if you were gonna get a boyfriend, if it's like conceptually the same boyfriend, right? Would you prefer the boyfriend be a little bit taller, or would you prefer them to be shorter? You would prefer them to be taller simply because that's what the societal standard of beauty is. But societal standard of beauty always changes, right? It's not this inherent thing. But I will surrender a few talking points just because I have deeper things to get into for this video. So, just by looking at the appearances, of course you want that, right? But okay, so now you can think about this too. If you fix the appearance, you have a handsome model. But if it's the handsome model and it's a shit personality versus really good personality, which would you want as a boyfriend? Of course you would want the good one, right? Yeah. So that's how the human mind just works. We always want the best thing for ourselves. Okay, and now here's the interesting part. If you want the best, that means literally everybody else also wants the same thing. So of course you want a 7-foot boyfriend with like a wonderful personality. But if such a person existed, he is not just going to be coveted by you, right? He's gonna be coveted by all the people around the world. So we've talked enough about boyfriends, so now let's talk about girlfriends. So if you have a supermodel girlfriend, it's gonna be really, really difficult to have your mind at peace, especially if you are not in the same caliber, right? If you're also a Hollywood model, then it makes sense, right? Then it's like, oh, okay, then it's kind of in the same league or whatever. But, we want the people in the same league. We think that, but our human psychology, we like to rationalize ourselves, but underneath all of it, we always want something more than we can realistically have, right? So the primary argument in this post is, well, women, find attractive at least, 6 foot or above, nice jawline, head of hair, and blah, 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 right? Okay, so statistically, there's 12.5 of men who are like blah, blah, blah. Okay, I get that. But there are people who want something out of that because, imagine this, 100% of female populations fighting for the 12.5% of men. That's not gonna be a fun experience for the females as well, right? But, females generally have an easier time not prioritizing relationships as their first priority. So, you fight a little bit with the, voluntary non-participation in relationships. But that still leaves a big portion of people who are interested in people outside of that realm, right? Because not everybody is interested in fighting over one person, right? And the common example that I give is it's commonly believed that short people can't have, a successful relationship and romance. But, Danny DeVito, the shortest guy in Hollywood, he is, doing fine in terms of relationships, right? And there's lots of other short people in, popular media and, entertainment who have wonderful lives. And now, the counter argument to that is, well, they're Hollywood stars. They're rich. Of course they have it. But that's precisely the argument that you're likely not seeing. Of course. If I am lacking in one department, don't I have to make up for it? It just makes sense I would do that, right? So, if I have a gap in my resume versus a candidate who doesn't have a gap in their resume, who is, at first glance, who is more attractive to the recruiter? Of course, the person without a resume gap, right? So, if I am showing up to my wife in two forms, right? I keep my same personality, and but I look the way I do right now. But on the other end, I have the same personality, but like I'm shorter, I'm balding, and I have a pig nose or whatever, right? Okay, so if it's the same personality, then it is a minus in the attractiveness department, right? So in order for me to try and convince my wife to like me, I need to do something for to compensate for that lack, right? But I think the large argument that is missing from these types of discussions about like different colors of pills is that they really don't want to compensate for their perceived lack. And people generally like to complain about their perceived lack and how unfair it is. But they don't see how in the grand scheme of things, it statistically makes sense. It's human behavior. And whatever so if you feel like you lack, and you can do something about it, right? You can work on success, and then, but you have to understand that when you try to compensate in that regard and you attract people who are attracted to you because of those positives, then that's something that you set up for your life, right? You already invested so much into your life to becoming rich, so you can attract people who will be attracted to you for the money. So the more you get into this calculative kind of a mindset in terms of human relationships, the more you end up being disappointed. Because you want the whole package. But in general, the whole package people won't really be interested in you. So you try to make up for it. But by making up for it, you attract the people who are only going to be attracted in what you made up. So being at peace and being comfortable with who you are, and attracting people who are also comfortable and cool with how they are, and accepting that I'm realistically not going to hang out with supermodels, and realistically understanding that I'm not going to be hanging out with angels. But that's okay, because I'm not a supermodel and I am not an angel. We all have our positives and we all have our negatives. And just going out into the world and seeing what happens when these two people meet in their own distinct humanhood. That is the natural way of how these things, I think, ought to work.